All right. Zot Hashem. We continue Torah Daled, Likutey Moharan II. We are holding by Seif Zayin.
What?
We're holding by Seif Zayin. Torah Daled, Likutey Moharan Chelek Beis, Seif Zayin. So as we explained that the Rebbe says that we receive the abundance, the shefa from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, commensurately with the kind of vessels that we have to receive it. And the vessel to receive Hashem's abundance is a yira. Yira is a natural product of realizing that someone is watching you. And when you goof up, there's hell to pay. And the thing that reveals to us that the world is under constant watch, and everything that happens because Hashem wants it that way, are the Yom Tovim. Amen. Because each Yom Tov is a time where specific miraculous inyanim happened. You know, in Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. So when a miracle like this happened, it makes it totally visible and understandable that Hashem is running the show. And the fact that we have a routine that we can expect for things to happen is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it that way. It's not because these are laws that are etched in stone and you want to. These are laws that are etched in stone, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it that way. If Hashem wants it to be different in any given moment, it'll be different. The thing is, we get used to derech hateva, as it can. Nature is not a state. Nature is what we call the conduct, the miraculous conduct that repeats itself. It's called nature. But it's a totally willful situation. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants it to be that way. How do you know? Well, the Yom Tovim, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, when things that happen that are totally out of nature, so you realize, that behind nature there's a will that guides it all the time. And the more year you have, the more happy you are in Yom Tov. Yom Tov reveals the fact that the world is under watch, which gives you Yira. So you see the two are tied together. Yom Tovim and the Yira, one depends on the other. The Rebbe said, that there is, however, not everybody can hear the calling out of the Yom Tovim. And that is because there are what are called wild animals, vicious animals, which are the scientists and people that are convinced and convince others that it's totally natural that way. It's nothing out of the ordinary. This is just a Happened to be that way. It's a coincidence, or whatever is explanation that they have, to poo-poo chas v'chalila the notion that Hashem calls the shots at everything. And these vicious animals, they are preying upon people from our nation, that because of these vicious animals also believe, that they'll already come, you just wait. Now we just finished, because Baruch Hu just finished 12 days in which Baruch Hu made total mockery of nature. Whatever was going on totally didn't make any sense. I mean, if they would have told anybody before anything started, this war started, that's the way it's going to end. Anybody who is anybody would sign for it, Alavai, even would be 10 times worse, will also accept that. I mean, it's totally unacceptable. It's like you wait, you'll see that very, very soon, this says, it's not so much, and it's not so miraculous, and it's natural, and it's this, and it's, you'll see.
No, the Irish think Iran won.
Iran says that they won because they want to save face, because they're embarrassed, and they were so upset.
No, even the older people.
Who older people?
People, critics.
It's
critics.
So as I'm saying, Chachmat, this is what Rabbeinu says, as you will see. Yeah, that's a Chachmat Teva. This is Chachmat Teva. This is the vicious animals. This is the vicious animals that prey upon our people. So this is what the Rebbe said, that they convince the people. So the voice of their apikoursis goes into the sound, into the announcement of the Yom Tovim. And he says, no, it was not Hashem's miracle. It was technology. It was this. It was that. It was a foregone conclusion. And whole. I actually saw. Somebody showed me, like a long video that explains the 6-day war. That was like totally miraculous. How the whole thing, that the president of Egypt was totally the victim. Nasser, he was totally the victim. Why was he the victim? He's the one that, that pushed all the armies there, closed the Tiran Straits, and the whole thing was called in Syria and Jordan. How was he the victim? Because his general told him they will be able to beat the Israeli army. What is a poor Egyptian president to do? I mean, he's a total victim of circumstance, right? Anyhow. And they took all the explanations that they were given after the war. Obviously, it went that way. Everybody knew it's going to be that way. A vicious animal. So Rabbeinu says in Siman Zayin as follows. And the defeat of these vicious animals, Chachmei Teva, this is performed by the great sage B'Kedusha. That has a special ability. He can connect all the retainness, all the private retainness of everybody to the very root of the Ratzon. Shoresh HaRatzon, that's the Ratzon HaElyon, that's the supernal will of Kodesh Baruch Hu. Shesham Ubchinas Istalkus Moshe. That's the place when Moshe passed away. He immediately was included in that place. Moshe Rabbeinu passed away Shabbos B'Mincha. That's the time that the Isgalus Metzach HaRatzon, the Ratzon Shabaritin, is the will that drives all wills is revealed in Shabbos by Mincha. That's Moshe Rabbeinu was mistalik to there. Ubchinas metzach harotzon. That's the forehead of rotzon. Because we have, we say that the eyes signify the chokhmah. It says that Adam and Chava, after they ate from Etz Hadas, he says, "V'tisupakachna einei shnehem," and the eyes of both of them were opened. What's pshat that their eyes were opened? Rashi says, "Al sheva chochma ne'emar." When somebody can see, this is who is a chocham, who is considered a sage, a wise person, a roya sanoilad, who can see, who can foresee what's going to come out of what's going on. So Rashi says, the eyes were open, al shema chochma ne'emar, meaning they became wise. The level of the eyes is the level of chochma, the level of recognized chochma. You see what's going to happen. This is a chocham ein of beroishay. A chocham, a wise person, somebody who has eyes in his head. Pashas Balak says, what do you mean his eyes in his head? Where should they going to be? In his arm? What do you expect his eyes to be? That the eyes in his head means that what he sees is connected to the chochma. The level of chokhmah that you can recognize and you can process and you realize is the level of the eyes. Below that, you have the nose, you have the ears. The eyes is the highest level. What's above the eyes? Above the eyes is a level which is above chokhmah. That's the forehead. The Kabbalah is the metzach, is called the rotzen. It's called the source of will. But because there are reasons that you do something, because you realize that it's the right thing to do. That's a level of an eye. You see the situation, you see the different options, and you come up with the proper solution, a proper policy to deal with reality. That's the level of an eye. But beyond that, there is a higher level. You do something not because it's right, not because of whatever. You do it because you want it. Right? You want to. You are afterwards taking this to the bank. I mean, they put this into your account, or wrong? You're taking this to the bank afterwards. You're depositing in the bank. That's good. It's good. I'm just kidding.
It goes, she go to the bank.
You should go to the bank. Put it in the bank. Maybe they'll let you write checks on it. Whatever. The ratzon is a person does something because he wants to. Now that wanting is a level which comes before the wisdom. In other words, it's supernal to the wisdom. That they say that three levels to the brain. There is what they call, the cerebral brain, where you understand things. That's what you call the chokhmah. Then you have what they call the limbic brain. Those are the emotions. Behind that, you have what we call the reptilian brain, which is that part of human nature that ensures existence, survivability, and continuity. Now, whenever there is a competition between the cerebral brain and the limbic brain almost always wins. Whenever there is a competition between the limbic brain, and the reptilian brain wins hands down, always.
What's the difference in the two?
The reptilian brain is like a reptile, like a snake. It's called because it's the stem of the brain in the back. That's the level of the brain. That's like the most primitive part of the brain that is in charge of existence, of survival and reproduction. That's it. This trumps down any emotion and any seichel. It's an instinct. So when there is an option, what do you do? Something that you think is right and it feels good, or something that you think that it's a do or die situation. Obviously, that's the reptilian brain. That's that always wins out. In most cases, the feeling brain wins out on what we call the thinking brain, as it were. The Rebbe says in Torah Aleph, Chelik Aleph Likutey Moharan, he deals with, he says, Lo yachpotz aksil besvuno, a fool is not interested in wisdom. Kim bisgalus liboy, only manifestation of the feelings of his heart. That's Esav. Esav wants to follow his feelings. That's the one thing that's all he cared about. What does the brain do? By Esav, the brain is the lawyer that tells you why what the heart wants is the good thing. He's the one that's supposed to, adjust the truth in accordance to what you feel, which means that's the feeling brain, influences the thinking brain and corrupts it. The thing behind that survival brain, which we call it, is the will to live, is the will to continue, and it trumps everything. It overcomes everything, because that's the rotzen. That's why it's called something. It's called in Kabbalah. It's called the forehead, because the level of the eyes is the level, as it were, that you can understand. The heart can feel. The eyes, you can understand. The metzach is a mashal. It means you want. So the rotzen is just you just want. That's it. Metzach harotzen means that's the will behind the will. That's the root, the shorish of the will itself. That's the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's called Metzach HaRotzen. And when Moshe Rabbeinu was mistalik, it was mistalik into Metzach HaRotzen. Why do we need to know that? Moshe Rabbeinu was comprised of all Nishmas Yisrael. The Neshama Moshe Rabbeinu included all the Neshamas of the entire clan Israel. And Moshe Rabbeinu was mistalik to where? What is the Neshmas of Israel? Is the Ratzonis of all Am Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu was mistalik into Metzach HaRotzen, means into the one Ratzon that includes all the Ratzonis, all the particular Ratzonis. In Torah Aleph, like this, Rabbeinu calls it Shorish Nishmas Yisrael, if you remember. That's the root of all Nishmas Yisrael. That's the root of everything. So the Chocham Golsha B'Kedusha, he can connect all the Ratzonis to the very root of the Ratzon. Wobchinas Metzach HaRotzen. If Chinos, as it is said in Shmois, that Aaron HaKohen was wearing the tzitz on his forehead, he says, Vayal mitzchoy l'rotzen. And it will be on the forehead of Aaron HaKohen, l'rotzen. Al pipshat, it means that by being on the forehead of Aaron HaKohen, that that created a situation when Kodesh Baruch Hu acquiesced and willed and wanted Am Yisrael and forgave them. Al Pi Kabbalah, it means to say that there is something called Metzach HaRotzain. It is a spiritual structure called Arich Anpin, means the long face, the spheres of the Keser, that in that Keser, there is a spiritual level, is called Metzach, forehead. And that's Metzach HaRotzin, because over there, in the Rotzin, is completely Rotzin and Rachamim and compassion without any judgment at all. To explain it a little bit, hold on just a second. We went over this quite a few times, saying how there is, when things come to a court, the court has to paskin, has to judge according to the law. Now the court has a leeway. It could be more lenient, be more strict. You know, they say that somebody was found guilty, I don't know, stealing or whatever it is. So they say, what's for stealing? They said, stealing, let's say a year to 3 years. What do you mean? Is it a year or is it 3 years? So it depends. If the court decides to be lenient, it'll be 1 year in jail. If the court is more strict, it'll be 3 years. Or assault, they say it's, I don't know, 5 to 7. What is 5 to 7? Either 5 or 7. It says if the court is lenient, they'll put him in jail for 5. If the court is strict, they'll put him away for 7. There's always both sides. But there's also something else which is called the presidential pardon. Presidential pardon, it doesn't depend on the law. Presidential pardon means that the president pardons somebody because the president wants to. That's it. Has nothing to do with the law, has nothing to do with justice, has nothing to do with anything. It has to do just with one thing, sympathy. President decides, okay, this guy is being pardoned, finished. So it means that the ultimate pardon is Ratzon. Depends on will. It's a sheer will. So the will of the ultimate emperor, Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's called Metzach HaRotzin. V'tzarech l'kasher kol ha'retzonos sheyesh ba'olam, and all the wills in the world need to be connected with Shoresh HaRotzin. They're connected to the very root of the Ratzon. Valadei zeu misgaberu machnia v'soiser deus chachmei hateva shekofrim ha'Ratzon. That is the way that pushes the restart, that disables the ability of the apikorsim and the heretics. No, it was chas v'chalel, just by connecting all the things to Shoresh HaRotzin, that enables to neutralize them. This is because the ways of the Teva, the ways of the nations that were of this world, is according to the Malachas Shamayim, to whatever it is, specific explanation of the natural causes may be at a particular point in time. But the truth is that the things are conducted that way only because God wants it to be that way. That this will happen when you take something, you drop it, it'll fall down, and so forth and so on. It's because the Kodesh Baruch Hu actively wants it to happen that way. And because the Ratzon Kodesh Baruch Hu is cloaked within these, conducts of nature, this routine, they behave in a very, very powerful and consistent way. Because the Ratzon Kodesh Baruch Hu is like the electricity that runs through it. And that is the thing that enables, the vicious animals, Chachmei Teva, it's a constant, it's a law, it's a nature, it cannot be undone. There's no will behind it. It's just, it's etched in stone. There's nothing what to do about it. As if Chas v'Chalila, there's no Ratzon Klal. But the Chochon Shebekdusha, he can connect all the ritzonos in the world, all the ritzonos to why this tea tastes like this, why the popcorn smells like this, every single thing. He can connect the Coke here. Why the Coke? The whole thing, from beginning to end. He can connect all the ritzonos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that are inside every single thing in the world, to connect them to the very root of the Ratzon, to the primordial will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the shorish and the root for all these particular specific wills, that when the wind blows, the ship can move, and the sea goes, whatever, all these have inside them the Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu that drives it to behave that way consistently. When you connect to Shas HaRatzon, you can reset it. And the Chochmei Teva lose their ability to say, hey, no, this is just.
I didn't understand that. How does it work together?
The ability to for the vicious animals, Chochmei Teva, to claim that there's no divine will behind the events of this world is because there's no apparent connection to the Ratzon von Hashem and the specific return, the events that are driven. It says, no, these are returns that were already cut off from whatever it is, and now it runs on its own. That's it. Now it's just like it's like a rolling stone going down the hill. Nothing's going to stop it. But when the Chacham connects the individual Ritzonos to the shorish of the Ratzon, they have no ability. They lose their ability to say, listen, it's an independent existence. It's no longer an independent existence. However, ach neged zeh, on the other side, parallel to the metzach of the Ratzon, the metzach HaRatzon, yesh pchinas metzach HaNachash. There's the forehead of the snake. Shu shorish chochmes hateva. That's the root of the chochmes hateva. He called the Vashel shorish. Every single thing has a root. The shorish chochmes hateva, and the root of all scientists and all natural explanations. Ubchinas metzach HaNachash. That's the forehead of the snake. And the Rebbe will explain what does it mean, metzach HaNachash. Because we already said before that metzach HaRatzon is because the Kodesh Baruch Hu wants it so. No, it's not something that it depends on reason. Not something that's just reason dependent. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants it that way, and that's it. So we have to understand metzach HaNachash. The Chochmas HaTeva, they say, you know why these things happen? Because there's a law that says so and so and so and so. Because they want to say that this is so and so and so. What come metzach HaNachash? We'll explain what was the forehead of the Nachash. Because you say, listen, we're just judging everything according to our wisdom. We investigate and we study and we research and we come to a conclusion. It's totally al pi chachma. I only believe what my eyes can see. Right? Have you ever heard that? I'll believe it when I'll see it. It's like a Netzach hanachosh means that it's a will not to see. It's a will to distort the fact that everything runs according to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Netzach hanachosh talks about mitzchas nechoshes al raglav. Goliath Haplishti was wearing shin guards made of copper. In the war, in the war, they wore various layers of shields, and it says a mitzchas nechoshes araglav, on the legs, on the shins of Goliath, there were shin guards made of nechoshes, of copper. Mitzchas nechoshes, the copper shin guard. But listen to what are the Hebrew names. You said mitzchas. Where does mitzchas get to shin guard? What's the shaychus? Lama dafka nechoshes. Why dafka copper? Why copper called nechoshes? But mitzchas is from the root of metzach, forehead. Nechoshes, inside is the word nachash. What has that got to do with Goliath Haplishti? His shin guards, it's called mitzchas and nechoshes araglav. What? No. It says about Goliath because metzach and nechoshes. Why? Because Goliath came to fight Am Yisrael, and he was a kofer. He was a heretic, and he wanted to show. He wanted to convince Am Yisrael that everything that happens is because of natural reasons. He was a huge man. I don't know, 7.5 feet tall, whatever it is. Huge, giant. And he came to Am Yisrael. What are you doing here? Why? You send somebody from your side. And he will fight me. And whoever wins, his army is considered the victor. And, to the victor, the spoils. Now, he was a giant of a man. And he was wearing armor all over. And on his legs alone, he was already wearing mitzchas hanachosh, shin guards made of copper, mitzchas hanachosh. For 30 days, he would come, and the Rahman Litzlan will curse out the creator of Am Yisrael. 30 days, every single day. Hey, if Hashem is so strong, he told him, let him save you from me. Gladiator.
You said 7 feet tall, you're bigger than 7.
Bigger, it was 7.5 or 8 feet. I don't know how tall he was, but and he says, why dafka metzach hanochosh al raglav, on his legs? Raglav, laregel, means for the reason of. I came to visit you, the regel, your bar mitzvah. I came to visit because it is your bar mitzvah. I came to visit you because your granddaughter gave birth to a baby boy. So I came to meet you, the regel, the simcha of whatever it's a regel means, it's a reason. So Goliath gave reasons. It's all natural reasons, chas v'shalom. All coming out of Metzach HaNochos. Yaakov Avinu told Lavan, Hashem blessed you because of me. The ragli. The regel. My regel. Regel is a reason. Besibosi. Means Yaakov told Lavan, Hashem Yisborach was bringing the bracha to him because of Yaakov Avinu. Nimtzo sheregel ubchinas sibois. The regel is a union of reasons. Yaakov Avinu said, "What's the siba?" Hashem Yisborach. Goliath was pinning everything on Metzach HaNochos, the forehead of the snake. Natural reasons. The Rebbe says as follows: "V'lifamim," and sometimes, "Misgaber b'chinas Metzach HaNochos b'poyel." There is a surge of this Metzach HaNochos. Why this person is being a heretic? Because he wants to. That's it. The ish proti, a specific person who's yoinek mimetzach hanochos, that he gets his entire chayas from that metzach hanochos. Shu shoresh chochmas hateva. That's the root of chochmas hateva. Chas v'sholom. And that person who gets his entire chayas from metzach hanochos, and he uses his chokhmah to show that everything is natural. Everything is natural because it's chas v'sholom. And Rabbeinu says, "V'yesh," and there is another much more dangerous situation. And when metzach hanochos, is embedded itself, is cloaked into this particular person, was, a vicious animal, chokhmah teva, and he shows everybody according to his chokhmah, everything is right. So that's one thing. Everybody knows that's what he represents. He represents, he's a genius, a professor, whatever it is. And he explains how everything is natural. It says, there is a much more subtle, much more dangerous situation in which that particular spiritual essence of Metzach HaNochos, Shoresh Chochmas HaTeva, Betoch HaChocham Shebekdusha, it enters the sage Shebekdusha, the Chocham Shebekdusha. The Chochma Zush of Metzach HaNochos, and that Chochma, that wisdom of Metzach HaNochos, which is extremely, obviously sophisticated, starts to enter into the brain, into the mind of the Chocham Shebekdusha, and it starts debating him. From this to that, from this to that, and finer, more subtle, and more subtle, more subtle, more subtle, more subtle, more subtle. Until it gets into such subtleties that it wants chas v'chalila to damage the actual root of the rotzon itself. Yeah, but maybe it goes, maybe this, maybe that. How about this? How about that? How about that? Maybe. Is it there's no rotzon klal chas v'shalom? There's a we know in the creation, Ma'aseh Bria, Chazal says that there are 10 different things that were created Erev Shabbos ben Hashmoshes. Just like it's no longer day, not yet night. And Chazal says, the Pirkei Avos mentions what are the 10 things. And the last thing that Chazal mentioned, it says that the demons were created. The Chazal is a very, very strange lotion that it uses to describe what happened. And it says the demons were created. V'lo hispika Kodesh Baruch Hu livro lahem gufos. Kodesh Baruch Hu, quote unquote, didn't have enough time to create bodies for them. They're just, like spiritual entities without bodies. Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't have the chance, didn't have the time to create bodies for them until Shabbos came in. It was Erev Shabbos Ben Hashmos, the last thing. Shabbos came in. Shabbos, Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't